you just imagine if this happened or in England, if a million of their fellow men had died? Do you think that they'd abide by this mass extermination? To be rising up, rising up, rising up, rising up! I know that you do what you can as you perish in your old ancestral land. I know that you can't fight a war when you're starving, but I ask you now, how have we this man among us, worse than Cromwell, but still he lives? We can pray for peace, now it's time for justice. Trust the Lord to forgive. Trust the Lord to forgive.
Counting since our little plot of soil gave up the harvest for our labor and our toil, and with no way to keep my family fed, how much longer can I live the life I've led? Justice comes to those reviled, but what is justice if I cannot feed my child?
So I was inspired to write the piece after visiting the National Famine Museum at Strokestown Park in 2019. I was working in Galway at NUIG, teaching a course in international human rights, and I came out to the museum for the day. I'm a songwriter. I've been a songwriter for a while. And traveling through the museum, it just was really moving and sort of really struck me how important the Strokestown story was. In the Midst of Plenty is a folk musical. It centers the story of a fictional woman named Bridget Connor, who's a 38-year-old mother of 4 living on the Strokestown estate in 1847 at the height of the Great Famine. And so it tells the story of Bridget and her experience as a friend and a mother and a community member, beginning in March of 1847 when the public works projects that were providing work to millions of people across Ireland were being wound down by Parliament and replaced by soup kitchens.
So rather than being just a historical account, it actually is more like it's a human story based around the protagonist's life, Bridget Connor.
So it centers the story of Bridget and her family, at the start of the story, finding out that her family no longer has access to employment on the public works scheme, but they're here in Strokestown where the soup kitchen isn't yet set up, won't actually be set up until summertime. And the story goes back and forth between the experiences of Bridget and her family and her community and the experiences of the landlord of the estate, Dennis Mann, and his family, because they spent the first half of that year in London preparing for the wedding of their daughter. So while people back in Ireland were suffering the very worst deprivations of the famine years, he was there, off in London, signing eviction notices, taking the advice of his land agent, who suggested that he needed to clear Strokestown of 2/3 of its inhabitants, or about 8,000 people. So as the story unfolds, we see him sort of beginning in this place of saying, I would hate to put so many starving people out without any means whatsoever of supporting them.
Bridget Connor is a mother that's 38 years old, and she is doing everything within her power to survive and to keep things together during these horrific circumstances. So as the musical evolves, we begin with a scene in Townland, and we learn the public works have ended.
It's all the public works. They're ending.
What are you saying to me?
No more work. Come down from the very top, they're saying.
The musical makes use of a lot of historical documents that, because he was in London, he's writing letters back and forth to his land agent in Ireland. So the archive at Strokestown has all of these incredible letters that tell us what these people were thinking and feeling and doing. So at first he's sort of reluctant to do this, but then he makes the choice to go along with the scheme that his land agent is suggesting, where he's evicting people on the land and he secures passage on what later become known as coffin ships for 1,490 of his tenants to sail to Canada.
Your father has paid for many of them to sail away to Canada. Just this year, this summer, how many was it, Dennis?
1,490, I believe, was the final tally.
And you know, as we later find out, almost half of the people who made that journey didn't survive.
This is the shawl of Widow Kilmartin, and it was one of the petitions that exists in the National Famine Museum. And the melody that Amy created for this particular song is incredibly beautiful. And aside from the melodic beauty of the song, the words are the original words that Widow Kilmartin had written. She's played by Grania Hunt. When she sings the song with the skill that she has as a singer, and all the emotion of, I've buried my husband, I've buried my children, and she reels off the most horrendous circumstances. You're no longer looking at just this faded document. I wanted to create a memorial for this woman who had the courage to get her story on that page. It's a melding of archive material with music and a human story.
Joe planted before he passed.
I suppose. He thought of us always.
You have your notice, that's paper. Father McDermott has a pen and an ink, haven't you, Father? And I'll write it. You just tell me what you wish his Lord to know. We'll begin with, Honoured Sir.
I most humbly request you won't be displeased. You won't be displeased with me for this addressing you, hoping to see the extinction of your mercy. That your mercy be shown forth to me in this my pitiful case, by giving me time for this rent, until harvest. I have buried my husband, 2 children, this month past, and I lost your rent by burying them. My children are lying, I have not a bite, nor a sup to give. Thanks be to God for all his mercies. damages what was committed by means of public works. After my husband was buried, his father and sister came and forced the only beast that I had. That man wants to put me out for nothing. He put me from getting the relief. My other children are lying. I have not a bite nor a sip to give. Thanks be to God for all his mercies.
Any man with half a heart will take pity on you.
Do you believe so?
I do. And perhaps someday, not just the major, but your own children's children will read this, and they'll remember what was done to you, and they'll honor you. How will we end it up?
I suppose. So please do not close up the bowels of compassion against me.
I've had this really unique experience of collaborating with Anne-Marie O'Sullivan of Enchanted Croi Theatre. She lives here on the grounds at Strokestown. She had done theater pieces over the last few years connected to the Strokestown Archive herself. So I was able to come here, live in her home, be here on the grounds at Strokestown. Our whole cast is here in Strokestown. You know, we've had a tour of the new museum. We're just completely immersed in the history. And so I think there's this kind of sacred feeling about what it is that we've been doing. You know, Anne-Marie has put this tremendous amount of thought and creativity into the costuming and the props and the set that integrate dozens of famine-era documents that come from the Strokestown Archive. Our character Mary was wearing a shawl that had the names of the 1,490 Strokestown immigrants handwritten on it. You know, she really just did everything she could to integrate the power of the archive and the power of the sort of historical place where the museum is located and where she lives into the fabric, literally the fabric of the show.
It's amazing to have this as a costume piece because it becomes very significant in the scene before Mary's about to go on the coffin ship. You see her, she takes her shawl which she wraps over her head, and then in the last scene she turns and we go to blackout. There's something about writing in particular that becomes almost ritualistic, and I think in terms of the general concept of what we're trying to do through this creative work, it's about remembering those people, honoring, creating a space for that cultural wound, which is obviously, it's embedded within Irish culture.
They've counted nearly half dead. From the ships, on the ships from the summer to Canada. Every day more and more names, and today it's half of them. I told you this would happen. I told you no one is safe on that journey. No one is safe when they leave.
And happy home. I wish that I had given more than humble flesh and bone, for I broke the word I gave to you upon this sacred stone, when you sailed across the sea, and when I let you leave alone. Do you live to greet the day, or did you die?
God.
my duty now to search for those to blame. I hope that seeking justice somehow helps to ease my pain. For the agony I shoulder sets the countryside aflame. There's nothing I won't do now in your name. Or did you live to greet the day? Or did you die before the dawn? From where you are, I hope you see that I still love you now you're gone. Why does it seem that those who hold all of the power in their hands are those humanity are the quickest to obey? I'll never see it as some kind of depravity if I come to take revenge from those who sent my love away. And did you live to greet the day? Or did you die before the dawn? From where you are, I hope you see that I still love you now you're gone. Love you now you're gone. Now you're gone. Now you're gone.
So that's been just a really kind of moving and emotional process. And so to have the show, here was really scary because it's sort of me submitting it to experts, people who are historians, who are experts in the subject matter, people who are from this community and whose families have experiences, have the same names as the people on the list of, so people are very connected to the subject matter. And so it was intimidating to bring it here, but deeply rewarding because people have been so generous with their thoughts and their feedback and their input and guidance on what we were creating. So that's been a really special experience for those reasons. Many members of San Diego's Irish American community have been really supportive of the project. Mick Ward of the Old Sod in San Diego, he's married to Kathy Ward, who runs the Irish American Outreach Center in San Diego. They've been very supportive of the project, offering space for me to do a workshop at his venue, helping to connect me with people who might be willing to read drafts and things like that. So, I think that obviously the Irish diaspora in the US is a really sort of strongly connected and passionate community that clearly were drawn to the subject matter that I was working with.
This particular musical, its themes of immigration and being displaced, being part of one culture and then having to find your feet in a new culture is so incredibly relevant now. And we see this also with the Ukrainian refugees who find themselves in Ireland now and they have to start again from the beginning. And it just makes me think about what little kindness can we offer one human being to another? What can it be? And maybe we don't have money or whatever, we can give something as simple as a smile and a welcome. And I think that is really important. Certainly in the midst of plenty, the last song of the musical is To the Water. And during that last scene, what we're doing is we're singing out to the audience. And the melody is quite hopeful because it's about future generations, it's about hope, it's about survival and being brave, going into the unknown and doing what's best for future generations.
This is not surrender, that I fought my bravest fight. And though I shall die on some faraway shore, I'll build them a future that's safe and secure. If I must finally take to the water in search of solid ground, then I will sail with my sons and my daughter in hope that happiness can be found. And I will cling to the dream of in search of solid ground. And so I sail with my sons and my daughter in hope that happiness can be found. And I will cling to the dream of